Warzone 2 has been out for a couple of weeks now, and while I had every intention of dropping a video on it a lot earlier, I kinda moved house in the middle there. Sorry about that everyone, but in waiting to do this video, it has given me some extra time to really think about Warzone 2 and what it's trying to achieve here. There's no denying that we are dealing with a very different beast this time around in comparison to Warzone 1, and the commentary online about this game tells that story. G'day there once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today we answer one question. Does Warzone 2 objectively suck? So right out of the blocks here, in order to address this burning question, we need to acknowledge one key fact that will set the scene for the rest of this video. Warzone 2 is clearly designed to be very different to Warzone 1. This isn't the Warzone experience that we only recently knew, just redubbed with a new coat of paint on it. It's something entirely different on purpose. And when I say different, and I kinda know I'm gonna cop some flack for this, but it's kind of the truth, Warzone 2 is a battle royale. It's not Rebirth Island 2.0, or in other words, a glorified team deathmatch or a free-for-all. It's a battle royale game in a much more traditional sense. I'm not saying that Warzone 2 is the perfect battle royale or best at what it does in the genre. I'm just saying that it clearly is trying to achieve that one goal of being a more traditional battle royale. Positioning, timing, dare I even say a bit of coordination and precision is a lot more important here than being able to slide cancel into a room and mow down an entire squad while you dance circles around them with the movement. There's a lot of factors that influence this change of mind with Warzone 2 that are consistent with the design decisions that are made in Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer. That being stuff like slower aiming down sight speeds, a blistering fast time to kill, and exclusive to Warzone, the 3-plate armor system that you've got to pick up mid-game. All of this encourages a much slower playstyle that forces you to think a bit more before you go on to your next move, rather than just screaming on into a room and making it up as you go along. And to be clear, when I say all this, I don't say it with the goal of being dismissive to the aggressive movement king strategy out there. You know, being able to make the most of the movement mechanics of a game and murder entire squads with it is something that I actually consider to be incredibly skillful. But it's clear that while aggression can be rewarded in Warzone 2 if you're that good, there's a reason that movement kings are seething on Twitter about this game, because it rewards positioning a hell of a lot more than it rewards blind aggression. That kind of playstyle is where I would normally see myself fitting into more in games for that matter. I'm such a hyper aggressive player that it took me a long time to adjust to Warzone 2, and I didn't want my personal bias to affect my overall outlook on the experience that this game is trying to provide. Sometimes I'm still getting this experience wrong, but I'm doing my level-headed best to minimize that frustration and approach those moments as constructively as possible. Trying to fit a square peg into a round hole is not the way to go. And I've come to understand that trying to be hyper-aggressive in this game is trying to fit that square peg into that round hole. So in an effort to be fair on the game and what it's actually trying to accomplish, I'm going to be judging it on what it actually is trying to be, as opposed to what Warzone maybe once was through the life cycle of Warzone 1. The changes to make it a more grounded battle royale experience does not automatically make it bad in my books. In fact, it almost feels like a callback to the original Verdansk days, you know? A return to simpler times even. And with all of that in mind, for all intents and purposes, I actually don't think this is a bad battle royale mode in the battle royale genre for that matter. I genuinely don't think that this game sucks really. As I said, it certainly grounds the player and slows the pace of the game right down. And man, it is punishing when you get things wrong here. I call back to my first and early days in PUBG when if you stepped out of line and there was a sniper sitting off in the distance or someone who had you beamed down with an M416, you were done. And I very much feel this way with Warzone 2.0. If you step out of line or get things wrong for just a millisecond, the game is going to punish you brutally. But that's kind of what battle royales have traditionally been all about. And whenever I've failed to understand that and have stepped out of line in the game, I always do my best to check myself and ensure that, you know, I understand what kind of game I'm playing. And when I do that, I'm generally having a lot of fun here with Warzone 2. I've had a couple of wins now in squads, and when the comms are flowing and the teams are just meshing well together, it really can feel quite sweet, and it's, you know, a game mode that I keep returning to as a result to keep chasing that dopamine hit of winning a Warzone game. I must say, for one, the map in which this game mode is taking place place, that being Al Mazrah, is fantastic. I've not heard much in the way of complaints about Al Mazrah at this point in time, but there are so many different unique points of interest and so many different areas to battle in that I'm still learning the map as we stand. And every game that I've been playing in, I've been doing my best to learn the terrain and try to abuse it to the best of my advantage where I can, and it's been a lot of fun to learn Al Mazrah and enjoy the different types of experience that the map provides, because it does provide a crazy amount of experiences, from long-range sniping ridgelines to close-quarters city fighting. All really good stuff. But above the map, there is one big feature here that has really made the Warzone 2 experience just that little bit better, where, you know, they've changed things and it's just been a net positive across the board. We're of course talking about proximity chat. Now, I'm sure we've all had an experience with it so far, but goddamn guys, the content that is going to come from proximity chat is endless, and good God, am I happy it's here to stay. I've had some hilarious interactions with the proximity chat so far, and I think it's just an excellent idea to add. It definitely means that if you're relying on in-game comms with your squad mates, you've got to be extremely careful, because, well, enemies are going to hear you as you're talking about them, but quite frankly, it's well worth it, and at the end of the day, I've been really enjoying proximity chat's inclusion to Warzone 2. The lack of loadouts really doesn't bother me here. You can still acquire your loadout weapons, which I very much feel was like the core of the loadout system from Warzone 1 that we all knew and loved. Quite frankly, while the perks used to be nice to have, the perk packages in this Warzone cannot be altered and they cannot be reconfigured to craft that perfect loadout that you're seeking, really. Which I'm not exactly a fan of, I must say. I do wish that we had more freedom over the loadout perk packages that we could have if we were to acquire our loadouts in-game. But given how rare and scarce loadouts are to acquire in the game as it stands, it doesn't really bother me that much that loadouts aren't really a thing here. And the floor loot that is in the game is plentiful enough to backfill the gaps in the lethal and the tactical slots of your loadouts as well. Overall, I actually don't mind it. But speaking of floor loot and looting stuff, we're going to talk about the looting system and the backpack system. Now, might be a bit of a hot take here, I must say, but I actually don't mind the backpack mechanic and the backpack system in the game currently. It definitely gives you extra capability and variety that you can have in your loadout at any given point in time. You can carry, you know, multiple tacticals, multiple lethals all at the same time and swap them out as you need them. It does make you more adaptable on the battlefield. And after some time with it, because let's be real, like most of the UI in this game, it's not easy to learn, I actually find myself quite liking the backpack system and the extra flexibility it brings you on the battlefield. However, the looting for the backpack system sucks on a next level. When things are close together, and more often than not things do drop close together, especially if you've wiped out a whole squad, holy shit, you are not having a good time in looting bodies, and it is the most frustrating experience just trying to get your mouse cursor on the right pixel on your screen just to start looting the backpack instead of dropping and juggling weapons that are on the ground 24/7. It really can take you out of the pacing of the game, and it really does, you know, take out of the experience too. They really need to look at fixing up the looting and coming up with some kind of UI interface to fix things. But speaking of pacing, let's talk about the time to kill and just the general gunplay and gameplay here, because the time to kill in this game feels incredibly quick by comparison to Warzone 1. I'm not sure if that's something that everyone else is feeling, but I am most certainly under that impression. And given that the movement in Warzone 2 is a lot slower by comparison to the previous title, this has had some ongoing effects that really do amplify the feeling of that faster time to kill. For example, no sprinting while plating is just ridiculous and needs to be tossed out the door. We should be able to sprint while we're plating. When you're trying to make some distance and trying to reset the engagement on your terms by breaking line of sight and getting some plates in, it just feels impossible to do. More often than not, it just seals the deal for the player who shot first. Even if you break line of sight for a moment and move for a smart counter, you're too busy plating up, you can't sprint to make that distance further, and well, that enemy player is just going to catch up to you while you're plating. Not fun. As I alluded to, the shorter time to kill with the slower movement also makes any ability to react feel kind of limited. There's been plenty of times where, despite my best efforts to break line of sight with somebody nearby cover, I've been downed almost instantly, which is never a fun feeling. And just the general combination of the slower movement and the faster time to kill has made it feel like there's a lot less opportunity for counterplay across the board in this game, which can suck sometimes. Again, it's very much in tune with rewarding that positioning play and rewarding the ability to get into the prime position for the circle and stuff like that, but there are times where if you are the assaulting player, you kind of feel a bit useless. I feel like a small change to the time to kill and the movement speed to allow for additional counterplay could go a long way, but that is just me. I feel like it would extend out the skill curve a little bit in this game, which sometimes I really do believe needs to happen. There are times where the skill curve just feels a little too consolidated to appease to the overly casual players. I'm sorry, that's just how it feels sometimes. I feel like cash in the game could also be a smidge more abundant in more areas. You know, given the price of unlockable loadout weapons, it can very much feel like a bit of a drag, especially if you're balancing with, you know, buying UAVs and calling in allies from death. It can feel pretty difficult to get your loadout weapons especially, and there's been a lot of games where I've spent the majority of my time without my loadout guns, which can feel a bit alienating sometimes. And I must say as well, just as a closing sort of remark, the mid-game pacing for Warzone 2 feels very off, like very off. The game normally starts off feeling absolutely batshit crazy as teams are landing all in the same areas and fighting each other to the death over weaponry and armor sets and stuff like that. And the end game also feels very good. It gets intense, there's a lot of action, and there's a lot of teams all finding themselves making their way back into the center circle from the split circle more often than not, which creates some very interesting dynamics for engagements and gas play, stuff like that. But then there's that really awkward mid-game lull that just kind of often feels like you're turning the game into a running simulator. There's a lot of times where I've been in the mid game, like those second, third, sometimes even fourth circles, where the circles are moving that slowly that you just don't see anybody for a solid 5 to 10 minutes. And it does feel very strange for a gameplay flow. It kind of feels unengaging at times. So I think either speeding up the countdown for the circles to start moving in, or even just speeding up the circle decay rate would go a bit of a way in making the game's pace feel just that little bit more consistent and a little bit more in touch with what the rest of the game tries to accomplish. Now obviously that was a few complaints there, but generally speaking, as I said before, I'm having fun with Warzone. Does it objectively suck? No, I don't think it's a game that's objectively bad. However, subjectively, I can see a lot wrong with it from certain people's point of view. I'm not here to say that your point of view is wrong if you think the game does suck. That's your opinion and you're entitled to it. And given how you may play the game or how you may have played Warzone 1, this game may suck to you, and that's okay. Not every game out there is going to appease to everyone. And while I do miss having, you know, next level movement mechanics and being able to out-aim people just by, you know, having longer time to kills and being able to be more consistent with my aim against my opponent, there have been some deliberate design decisions made here. And after some time reflecting on my playstyle and getting into a different groove to what I'm used to, I have been able to have some fun in Warzone. And when I'm having fun with a game like this and not coming back to it just to make content for my YouTube channel, I think something's gone a touch right there in some way. But folks, I now want to hear from you guys in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts on Warzone 2? Do you think the game sucks? Do you think it's right in the sweet spot? Do you think there's some additional improvements needed to be made? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. It does go a long way to support the channel. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button so it keeps you up to date with more videos and live streams right here on YouTube in the future. Once again, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good one.